Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching Newsnight on DD India, your primetime destination for news and bespoke analysis. It's good to see you again. All right, on the show tonight, we take a long, hard look at the COVID-19 situation in the country. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a video conference with the chief ministers of states. He called for a quick, decisive action to prevent a second peak of infections. His warning was clear. If India does not stop this growing pandemic now, then it could be staring at a countrywide outbreak. Also on the show, we take stock of India-Bangladesh relations ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Dhaka, plus news and updates from around the world, all that and much more coming up over the next 1 hour. But first, as always, the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacts with chief ministers on the rising number of COVID-19 cases in the country, calls for quick, decisive action to control the pandemic, warns that if the pandemic is not stopped now, then a countrywide outbreak can occur. Prime Minister Modi says 70 districts are in focus after they report 150% rise in the last few weeks. Notes the need of micro-containment zones in states such as Maharashtra. Recovery rate at 96.56%, more than 3.5 crore people vaccinated so far. The first shipment of food products leaves Bangladesh for Kolkata in India via inland waterways. The vessel will cover about 700 kilometers in 8 days. Officials from the Water Resources Ministries of India and Bangladesh meet to boost cooperation. Prime Minister Modi addresses International Conference on Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, says in an interdependent and interconnected world, no country is immune to the effect of global disasters such as COVID-19 pandemic. The Lok Sabha passes demands for grants of different ministries including railways, education and health. Also passes the Appropriation Bill 2021-22. In the Rajya Sabha, Railways Minister Piyush Goyal says Indian Railways will never be privatized. Campaigning hots up in poll-bound states. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath holds rallies in Assam, attacks the Congress party for its politics of appeasement. In West Bengal, the Trinamool Congress releases its manifesto. Central Election Committee of the BJP deliberates on the names of candidates for the ensuing elections. And Mumbai Police Commissioner Paramveer Singh transferred, made the Director General of Home Guards. The move comes in the backdrop of the arrest of Assistant Police Inspector Sachin Vaze by the National Investigation Agency. Right, let me dive straight into our cover story. It's on the COVID-19 pandemic. First, the good news. One, more than 96% of coronavirus cases in India have recovered. And two, India has one of the lowest fatality rates anywhere in the world. But now to the worrying news. Two states, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, report a high test positivity rate. But that's not all. 70 districts across the country have seen a 150% rise in COVID cases in the past few weeks. What it means is that this second peak of the coronavirus is probable if urgent steps are not taken or if complacency sets in.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the chief ministers on the urgent and immediate issue of surging cases of COVID-19 in many states. Rising cases of COVID-19 in some states have raised alarms all over, particularly the way in which the graph of infection is surging northwards. It has invited prompt response from the centre. Prime Minister was candid in his remarks and gave a call for each and everyone present in the virtual meeting to get their act together. At the outset, he underlined the clear and present danger that the resurgent virus cases in few states posed to the entire nation and called for quick and decisive steps.
देश के 70 जिलों में तो पिछले कुछ हफ्तों में यह वृद्धि 150% से भी ज्यादा है, 150% से ज्यादा। अगर हम इस बढ़ती हुई महामारी को यही नहीं रोकेंगे तो देशव्यापी आउटब्रेक की स्थिति बन सकती है। हमें कोरोना की उस उभरती हुई सेकंड पीक को तुरंत रोकना ही होगा और इसके लिए हमें क्विक और डिसाइसिव कदम उठाने होंगे।
Prime Minister stressed that confidence should not become overconfidence and the success in controlling the spread so far should not translate to carelessness.
टेस्ट, ट्रैक और ट्रीट, इसको लेकर भी हमें उतनी ही गंभीरता की जरूरत है जैसे कि हम पिछले एक साल से करते आ रहे हैं। और आरटी-पीसीआर टेस्ट रेट 70% से ऊपर रखना बहुत अहम है।
The most important aspect of PM's intervention was about the resurgence of virus in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities this time and the imminent threat of a spillover to the rural areas.
इस बार हमारे Tier 2 और Tier 3 शहर जो शुरू में प्रभावित नहीं हुए थे, उनके आसपास के क्षेत्र प्रभावित ज्यादा हो रहे हैं। देखिए, इस लड़ाई में हम सफलतापूर्वक बच पाए हैं, उसका एक कारण था कि हम गांवों को इससे मुक्त रख पाए थे। लेकिन Tier 2, Tier 3 सिटी पहुंचा तो इसको गांव में जाने से देर नहीं लगेगी और गांवों को संभालना हमारी व्यवस्थाएं बहुत कम पड़ जाएगी। और इसलिए हमें छोटे शहरों में टेस्टिंग को बढ़ाना होगा। हमें छोटे शहरों में रेफरल सिस्टम और एम्बुलेंस नेटवर्क के ऊपर विशेष ध्यान देना होगा।
Prime Minister also flagged the issue of wastage of vaccine by many states and stated that it is a serious lapse on the part of administration.
देश में वैक्सीनेशन की गति लगातार बढ़ रही है। हम एक दिन में 30 लाख लोगों को वैक्सीन करने के आंकड़े को भी एक बार तो पार कर चुके हैं। लेकिन इसके साथ ही हमें वैक्सीन डोसेज वेस्ट होने की समस्या को बहुत गंभीरता से लेना चाहिए। तेलंगाना और आंध्र प्रदेश में 10% से ज्यादा वैक्सीन वेस्टेज है। यूपी में भी वैक्सीन वेस्टेज करीब करीब वैसा ही है। वैक्सीन क्यों वेस्टेज हो रही है, इसकी भी राज्यों में समीक्षा होनी चाहिए और मैं मानता हूं हर रोज शाम को इसके मॉनिटरिंग की व्यवस्था रहनी चाहिए और हमारी सिस्टम को प्रोएक्टिव लोगों को कांटेक्ट करके एक साथ इतने लोग मौजूद रहें ताकि वैक्सीन वैक्सीन वेस्टेज न जाए, इसकी व्यवस्था होनी चाहिए।
Prime Minister has been proactive in dealing with the challenge of COVID-19 pandemic. He has led from the front and has addressed the nation 8 times on this issue over the past many months. He has also held 10 meetings with the chief ministers of states and union territories, including on Wednesday. Whether it be appealing about COVID precautions or announcing preventive measures, he has always kept the interest of all first and has not hesitated from taking tough decisions. His call is for all of India. This is the time for all of us to take cumulative action and work together to defeat the pandemic for once and all. Bureau Report, DD India.
Right, now take a look at the next report, which talks in detail about how many Indian states continue to report a high number of new COVID-19 cases and what can be done to overcome the problem.
On one hand, vaccination drive is getting pace. On the other, surging COVID-19 cases in the country too is a cause of concern. Many states continue to report a high number of daily new cases. 70 districts in 16 states have seen an increase in COVID-19 cases by 150% in the last 15 days. The country has seen a surge in cases in last week, although the positivity rate is below 5%.
देश भर में 50,000 से ज़्यादा सरकारी अस्पताल और प्राइवेट अस्पताल कोविड वैक्सीनेशन सेंटर के रूप में काम कर रहे हैं। हमने प्रत्येक अस्पताल को जियो रेफरेंस किया है, यानी हर अस्पताल का लैटिट्यूड और लॉन्गिट्यूड नक्शों पर मैप किया है और ये उनका स्प्रेड है। each green dot denotes a COVID vaccination center. This map also gives you an idea of where there is concentration of COVID vaccination centers and where there are geographical gaps. These maps have further been disaggregated at the state level and shared with the states so that they can do more effective planning.
The surging COVID-19 cases in Maharashtra remains a cause of concern. 60% of all active cases are concentrated in Maharashtra. Amid rising cases in Punjab, Gujarat, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Centre has advised to scale up RT-PCR tests.
हमने राज्यों को ये भी अनुरोध किया है कि we must do more of the same, but we must do more of the same in an efficient manner. What is this more of the same? It is testing, tracking and treatment. Now that we have vaccines, it is also vaccinate. So we are saying that increase the number of tests, increase the proportion of RT-PCR tests to a minimum of 70%, ensure that all close contacts of any positive person is traced, isolated and tested in the first 3 days.
During his interaction with chief ministers through video conference, Prime Minister Narendra Modi stressed the need to take quick and decisive steps to contain the spread of the virus.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो मैसेज रहा, जो उनकी गाइडेंस हमें मिली है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को मिली है, देश को मिली है, वो ये है कि हमें ये जो इमर्जिंग सेकंड पीक है, अगर हम देखें कि ऐसे आ रहा था, इस तरफ जा रही है, जो उभरती हुई सेकंड पीक कह सकते हैं जिसको, उसको हमें पूरे जोश के साथ, समझदारी के साथ और कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ एड्रेस करना होगा। पैनिक नहीं करना है, हमारे पास कॉन्फिडेंस है। उन्होंने कहा कि जैसे हमने पहले अपने देश को पेंडेमिक से बचाया, हमें कॉन्फिडेंस है, हमारे पास टूल्स हैं उसको बचाने के, लेकिन अब वक्त आ गया है कि उन सब टूल्स को इस्तेमाल करके जुड़ के इस सिचुएशन में काबू पाया जाए और सब मिलके इस काम को करें, ये उनका मेन मैसेज।
Replying to a question, the centre also made it clear that there is no shortage of vaccine in the country.
विदेश में जो वैक्सीन जाती है वो 3 प्रकार की प्रक्रियाओं के तहत जाती है। एक इंटरनेशनल कमिटमेंट हैं जो वैक्सीन मैन्युफैक्चरर्स के हैं, और इंटरनेशनल कमिटमेंट्स इंटरनेशनल बॉडीज़ के साथ हैं। दुनिया भर के विभिन्न वैक्सीन मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को एडवांस पेमेंट कमिटमेंट के तहत कुछ पैसा दिया गया। भारत में भी जो मैन्युफैक्चरर्स थे उनको ये पैसा मिला, उस पैसे के एवज में वैक्सीन दी जानी है, वो इंटरनेशनल कमिटमेंट है।
Although certain states seeing a surge in cases, the contribution of active cases as well as the case fatality rate is 2 or less than 2% in the country. Vaccination drive too is getting pace. So far, 3.51 crore vaccine doses have been administered. War against COVID-19 has not yet been won. We must follow the simple precautions to reduce chances of being infected or spreading COVID-19 infections. Some of these guidelines include maintaining physical distancing, wearing a mask, keeping rooms well ventilated, avoiding crowds and cleaning hands, among others. Bureau Report, DD India.
Right, time now for our In Focus segment in which we are discussing about PM urges decisive steps to prevent second peak of COVID-19. Joining me are 2 guests, Dr. V.K. Paul, Member Niti Aayog, and Dr. S.K. Sareen, Director of the Institute of Liver and Biliary Sciences at New Delhi. Dr. Paul and Dr. Sareen, welcome to Newsnight. Dr. Paul, if I can start with you, I have a twofold question for you. One, now we are told that the number of COVID cases are on the rise, are rising. Now what does the data actually say? And how does it compare with, say, where India was, say, 1 month ago or 2 months ago? And number 2, for the benefit of our viewers who are not familiar with the facts or the issues at hand, could you help demystify this phrase or term for them, emerging second peak? Dr. Paul?
Well, we are noticing that after a consistent decline in cases after September,
Right.
Now for the last 4 weeks or so, again the cases are rising.
Right.
We may recall that at the peak of the pandemic, the nation was experiencing new cases on a daily basis to the tune of 97,000 cases per day. 97,000 cases per day in the third week of September.
Right.
Subsequent to that, there has been a clear-cut and a very consistent, steady decline in the cases all over the nation. And we came to a situation last month, February month, third week again, when the case number per day declined to about 9,000 or just under 9,000. So from 97,000 per day to 9,000. And active cases declined situationally from 10 lakhs to just about a lakh. But now what we are witnessing is from that 9,000 per day number of last month, we have now risen to 27, 28, 29,000 cases.
So from 9 to 27,000, that's what you're saying.
And this has happened over a period of 3 to 4 weeks. And this is what is worrying all of us. This should be worrying the nation. And that is the reason why the Prime Minister called this such a high-level meeting to brace up, to face this trend that has now emerged. And this trend could be, we hope it is not, a second peak. If we can stem it, if we can stop it, if we can effectively curb it, it will not be a peak. It will be just a damp, some rise and settles down. But this is the concern that we have, that after a consistent decline for such a long period of time, we are now witnessing an increase. And also, please note, as your report said, that in some districts, 70 districts, the increase is 150% in the number of cases from 1st of March to 15th of March. Phenomenal increase in. So this is the concern. These numbers are still manageable.
Absolutely.
If we go back to working together, as the Prime Minister outlined in his very eloquent speech. And the notion of the second peak is familiar. It has happened in other countries. We hope that this rise will settle down. It will not be a peak. We will be safe, but we have to work hard for it.
Absolutely. Dr. Sareen, help our viewers understand, if you will, the factors leading to this emerging second peak. As Dr. Paul mentioned, the numbers have gone up from 9,000 to about 27,000. That's a sizable jump in the incidence of COVID-19. The Prime Minister himself referred to the challenge of maintaining COVID-appropriate behavior in general public. So, is the use of masks probably going down, and is complacency setting in?
Well, you're right. Everyone is concerned, whether it is experts or general public or policymakers, with the rising numbers, and they are rapidly rising every day. They are rising. Some states like Maharashtra are really under a almost same situation as they were last year. The main reasons for this are that you are now opening up, without having any accountability by the people. So people must be accountable for their act. It's not only the government which always be accountable. Second thing is that the people think it is their right that they should get a vaccine. Yes, it is a free vaccine. You are getting it, but you are not taking it. So the second part of the rise is that although the vaccine is available in India, maybe amongst the very few countries, Dr. Paul can correct me, that we have probably surplus vaccine production, then we are using it right now. So if you have a vaccine available and you have your turn, maybe why don't you show up? We have enough vaccination centers, and I think we have reached to 3 million a day, and in few days we may go up to 5 to 6 million a day. So if we can increase the number, all the healthcare workers, all the frontline workers, and even those who are now listed from 45 with comorbs and about 60, they all should come, get vaccinated. Like at ILBS, we have 5 centers. We start at 7 and go till late. We can, do many more. So we do about 800. We can go to 1,500. So what I'm saying is, people, vaccination centers are there, they should go. One important fact is that, like, UK, like Israel, they have given early to the people who are above 65. Now, once 2 weeks have passed after vaccination, the trend of new infections or death in that population has come down. What we need to analyze in our population is the surge in elderly. Is the surge still there in those who have got one shot or have got both the shots? Our own estimate and science says those who got even one shot will be protected. At least to some extent, the infection may not be severe, the going to ICU or hospital may not be there. So, important thing is large number of people should get their first shot. The reason for rise is that we have opened up without taking precautions enough and without having given importance to getting vaccinated fast. Yes, there is also a fear that the new variants might walk in. If you have delayed your vaccination, you are a healthcare worker and you are not taking it, the next patient who comes to your hospital may have a South African variant. And now the vaccines, like yesterday, it is published that the South African variant, even the Covishield is not effective. So you take the vaccine before you get a variant coming into your hospital, whether you have got one shot or two shot, but at least start. Any hospital employee, anyone who is in the healthcare setting should not take a chance. My strong request and recommendation is every one of the healthcare workers and all frontline workers must get vaccinated without any hesitation.
Indeed.
That is the only way. And of course, COVID appropriate behavior has to be complied with strict, monitoring.
Point taken, Dr. Sareen. Dr. Paul, I mean, this is amazing. I can't believe what I heard. We have a vaccine. We've been asking for a vaccine for more than 1 year now. And today, when we actually have a vaccine, few people are turning up to get themselves vaccinated. Why? Number one. Number two, will it call for a change of vaccination strategy? Because PM himself, no less than the PM himself, said this in his intervention today, that there has been a wastage of vaccine doses as much as 10% in some states such as Madhya Pradesh or Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Uttar Pradesh. So, one, why are more people not showing up for vaccination? And two, can we overcome this problem of underutilization of vaccines? Dr. Paul?
Well, to answer your first question, let's look at how the vaccine eagerness vis-a-vis hesitancy has been evolving.
Okay.
There was a phase in the beginning when people were fearing that the vaccines could have side effects and so on. That fear has gone. The acceptance rose even among the healthcare workers who were reluctant to begin with, and also the frontline workers. So we have seen that the initial phase of hesitancy was the fear of the unknown.
Okay.
हो जाएंगे कुछ और कोई खराबी तो नहीं हो जाएगी वगैरह वगैरह. Now that is out because today, such a large population in crores have taken the vaccine, and we are safe that both the vaccines have been now used in such a large number of individuals. Now that is taken care of. I think the reason that has been pervading in more recent times is pure complacence.
Right.
Thinking the disease has gone away. Thinking, why do it? Life is nearly normal. I think that is the myth that should be broken completely.
Right.
With the experience of the last 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. Please, this virus has not gone away. We have to protect ourselves from the virus with all the tools at our disposal, which of course now includes vaccines. But we also have the tool of wearing a mask, maintaining social distance,
absolutely,
maintaining hand hygiene, which we have all, to a very large extent, become lax about. At the same time, we have the second tool in terms of being tested, and if you are positive, you are to be looked after as a patient of COVID-19 in a certain way at home, in a certain way if required in the hospital. But more importantly, your contacts have to be quarantined within 48 to 72 hours. About 15 to 20 to 30 contacts have to be in quarantine. They are not to be going to offices. They are not to be traveling. They have to be at home and then to be tracked for the symptoms. And if on the 7th day, no symptoms, you do the test is negative, you join back to society. Now, this has also become lax. Micro-containment as a measure of containing clusters has also become lax. So this tool we have an issue about. But we must remember that we have to invoke these tools in addition to the vaccine, which has been explained very nicely by Dr. Sareen, and that is an additional tool that we truly have. And the point about wastage of vaccine is actually very sad and very painful, because if you are looking at overall wastage to the tune of 6.5% doses, this is because today the vaccine is the most precious commodity on this planet.
Absolutely.
In our country, and we are fortunate that we have enough supplies to address vaccination of the priority groups that the nation has identified, and we're moving very systematically in that direction. So to waste the most precious commodity, more important than gold, more important than
absolutely more important than gold, and one must come forward to actually take the jab, says Dr. Paul.
Let this go down the drain. Not acceptable, because every dose that is wasted belongs to somebody whose life can be saved. Therefore, we all have to be responsible in rolling on the vaccination program with minimum possible wastage, well below 1%. And that is the call the Honorable Prime Minister gave today, that this kind of laxity in the system and casualness in the system has to be covered.
Right. Dr. Sareen, I'm afraid I've completely run out of time, so I'll have to leave it at that. May I thank you, Dr. Sareen and Dr. Paul, for making time for us here on Newsnight. Appreciate it. Right, shifting focus to the other big story we are tracking here on Newsnight. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Bangladesh next week. He'll visit Dhaka at the invitation of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The next report tells you more. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Bangladesh on 26th and 27th March would be his first visit to a foreign country since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Ministry of External Affairs said on Tuesday that it highlights the priority India attaches to Bangladesh. Prime Minister Modi would visit Bangladesh in connection with a commemoration of 3 epochal events: Mujib Borsho, the birth centenary of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, 50 years of the establishment of diplomatic ties between India and Bangladesh, and 50 years of Bangladesh's liberation war. Wednesday marks the 101st birth anniversary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Prime Minister Modi paid homage to Bangabandhu on his birth anniversary. He tweeted, I quote, "My heartfelt homage to Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, a champion of human rights and freedom, on his birth anniversary. He is a hero for all Indians too. It will be my honor to visit Bangladesh later this month for the historic Mujib Borsho celebrations," unquote. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi would attend the National Day program of Bangladesh on 26th March as the guest of honor. Prime Minister Modi had last visited Bangladesh in 2015. Besides holding bilateral consultations with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Prime Minister Modi would call on Bangladesh President Abdul Hamid. Bangladesh Foreign Minister A.K. Abdul Momen would call on Prime Minister Modi. Bureau Report, DD India. And talking about India-Bangladesh ties, Tuesday saw the two countries achieve another milestone. The first shipment of food products from Bangladesh to India using the inland waterways. The first shipment of food products exported from Bangladesh to India using the inland waterways left the Pran Industrial Park from Palash in Narsingdi on Tuesday. Bangladesh Minister of State for Shipping, Khalid Mahmood Chaudhry, flagged off the ship MV Alif Lam Mim. It will cover a distance of about 700 kilometers to Kolkata in 8 days. Earlier, these items would be sent on a truck, which resulted in a higher cost and wastage of products on the way. Now, in September last year, the first shipment on the protocol route commenced with a consignment of 50 tons of cement sent from Daudkandi in Bangladesh to Shonamura in Tripura on the new protocol route. The protocol for inland water trade and transit was signed between India and Bangladesh in 1972 to connect the two countries through inland waterways. And in 2019-20, about 3.5 million metric tons of cargo was transported between India and Bangladesh on the protocol routes. And officials from the Water Resources Ministries of India and Bangladesh met in New Delhi on Tuesday under the framework of the Joint Rivers Commission. Now, India and Bangladesh agreed to expand cooperation across an entire gamut of water resources issues, including framework for sharing of river waters, mitigation of pollution, riverbank protection, flood management, and basin management. Now, India and Bangladesh share 54 rivers which directly impact the livelihood of their peoples, and both countries commended the close cooperation that exists between India and Bangladesh in this matter. Right, time for a very short break here on Newsnight. Keep watching DD India. Don't go anywhere.
The changing world of news. Headlines that you wake up to. News that shapes your day. Stories that matter to you. The latest and most accurate updates. A fresh start to a new day. The Breakfast News, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. on DD India. Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsnight here on DD India. Time for our second In Focus segment, in which we are discussing about India-Bangladesh, a historic relationship. And joining me is Ambassador Pinag Ranjan Chakravarti. He is a former Indian High Commissioner to Dhaka. High Commissioner Chakravarti, welcome to Newsnight. Now, some would say that Bangladesh is one of those few bright spots in India's neighborhood in terms of the high level of bilateral ties that exist between the two countries. Now, could you help our viewers understand what are the factors or the reasons for the goodwill that exists between the two countries and what actually led to the growth of the ties?
Well, it's like this, that the relationship between India and Bangladesh has been sort of, the foundational aspects of the relationship has been the Liberation War, in which both countries participated in helping Bangladesh become independent. So that's a very foundational kind of a pillar that the relationship has, and it also has an emotional and sentimental aspect. Indeed. Because of the kind of bloodshed that took place during that war by the Pakistani army. Now, over the years, of course, there has been ups and downs, and depending on which government and their ideological sort of makeup. So we've had ups and downs, yes. But I think during the period Sheikh Hasina has been in power as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh since 2008 and 2009, actually. And so I think this period has been very, very productive in terms of doing things that we all wanted to do but could not be done earlier. And connectivity is one of the major pillars. Then again, the energy cooperation is another major pillar. Then, of course, people-to-people contact, the large number of people who come to India from Bangladesh and Indians who go there. Then the increase in investments that have taken place. and also the development partnership cooperation, where India has committed almost $8 to $10 billion in providing grants, etc., and lines of credit. So I think this is the basic, economic and political base on which the relationship has been built.
Right. High Commissioner Chakravarti, if I can just quickly read out from the Indian Foreign Ministry statement issued on Tuesday. Now, 2021, by every meaning of the term, is a watershed year for Bangladesh and India as well. Now, this is the year Bangladesh turns 50, number one. Number two, it marks 50 years of India-Bangladesh diplomatic relations. And number three, it's the birth centenary year of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So it's a historic trifecta of sorts, High Commissioner Chakravarti. Could you help our viewers understand the significance of what is about to unfold in Dhaka? In fact, it began this morning. Over a 10-day period, we'll see many more such celebrations taking place in Dhaka and elsewhere in Bangladesh, leading up to Prime Minister Modi's visit on 26. Help our viewers understand the significance of what is we are about to witness in Dhaka over the next week or so.
Well, it is a fortunate sort of coincidence that the 50 years of independence and diplomatic relations also coincides with the 100th birth anniversary of their great leader, and I think one of the greatest leaders of the world, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who without him Bangladesh would not have existed. Without his vision and leadership, Bangladesh would not have fought the liberation war the way they did. And I think that is very important to acknowledge and convey to the world, and that this is a historic occasion in which these two neighboring countries are coming together. It's a hugely symbolic occasion, and that is why I think Prime Minister Modi is visiting at the invitation, of course, of the Bangladesh government, and he will be the kind of chief guest at these ceremonies, which will kick off the whole year-long kind of activities that they have planned. So it's hugely symbolic, and it's hugely sort of important for both countries and the governments to use this symbolic occasion, or use this occasion to convey to the peoples of both countries that this relationship stands on solid ground, and this relationship is moving forward inexorably.
Right. On that note, High Commissioner Chakravarti, thank you so much for making time for us here at Newsnight. Appreciate it. Right, moving on for now. Prime Minister Modi on Wednesday addressed the opening ceremony of an international conference on disaster resilient infrastructure via video conference. The Prime Ministers of Fiji, Italy and the United Kingdom took part in it. Now, delegates from national governments, experts from international organizations, academic institutions and private sector took part in the conference. And Prime Minister Modi called for sustained efforts to mitigate the impact of climate change.
We have a looming climate crisis. As the UN Environment Chiefs recently said, there is no vaccine for the climate crisis. It will take sustained and concentrated efforts to mitigate climate change. We also need to adapt to changes that are already being observed and are affecting communities around the world. In such a context, the importance of the coalition has become even more evident. If we can make our investment in infrastructure resilient, it can be a centerpiece of our wider adoption efforts.
The Prime Minister called for cooperation to ensure the resilience of the global system. He said infrastructure is developed for the long term, and if one makes it resilient, then one can prevent a disaster not only for oneself but for future generations as well.
Cooperation is a must for ensuring the resilience of the global system. Infrastructure is developed for the long term. If we make it resilient, we will prevent disasters not only for ourselves, but many future generations. When a bridge is lost, a telecom tower falls, power system fail, or when a school is damaged, the loss is not just the direct damage. We should look at losses holistically.
And UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson thanked Prime Minister Modi for hosting the conference on disaster-resilient infrastructure. He thanked the Prime Minister Modi's leadership on renewable energy.
I want to thank Prime Minister Modi for hosting this conference and also for his fantastic leadership in areas such as renewable energy as we continue the fight against climate change. We have a shared vision for a sustainable future for our nations and for the global community. And I very much look forward to discussing this and many other issues with Prime Minister Modi on my upcoming visit to India.
In other news, India's effort to share COVID-19 vaccine came up for discussion in the Lok Sabha on Wednesday. Here is a roundup of the day's proceedings. Take a look at the next report.
Lok Sabha proceedings began with an obituary reference for BJP MP from Mandi in Himachal Pradesh, Ram Swarup Sharma. The House was adjourned till 1 p.m. as a mark of respect for the departed soul. Later, during the discussion on the demand for grants under Health Ministry, Centre asserted that the supply of vaccines abroad under the Vaccine Maitri initiative is based on the assessment of adequate availability in the country. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar made the statement on Vaccine Maitri in both the Houses of Parliament. He added that Vaccine Maitri has made the world see not just the selfless outlook of India, but also the quality of India's products and its capabilities.
Our ambassadors abroad feel every day the warmth of ordinary people across the world for India. In the truest sense, this has been people-centric diplomacy at work. The world sees not just the selfless outlook of India, but also the quality of our products and of our capabilities. The COVID pandemic has been a test of fire for all of us, but I can confidently state, sir, that even in the midst of a global crisis, the Prime Minister's initiative of such deep friendship has raised India's standing and generated great international goodwill for all of us.
While replying to the discussion, Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan asserted that the vaccination program in the country is progressing well and is on track.
उस दिन जिस दिन हमारा 3 मिलियन के ऊपर था, उस दिन दुनिया के अंदर, पूरी दुनिया के अंदर शायद 8 मिलियन के करीब था. पूरे दुनिया के वैक्सीनेशन का 36% जो है वो भारत के अंदर हुआ. और जिसको भी वैक्सीन, यानी आज भी 3.5 करोड़ वैक्सीन लग चुकी है, कल भी 21 लाख वैक्सीन लगी. और ये जो हमारा 60 प्लस का जो ग्रुप है, इसमें 1 करोड़ हम 15 दिन के अंदर पहुंच गए और 5.94 करोड़ 73 कंट्रीज को हम भेज रहे हैं.
The lower house later passed the demands for grants for various ministries and departments by consolidating them together. The House also passed the Appropriation Bill 2021. With inputs from Vishal Baristo, Bureau Report, DD India.
And the Rajya Sabha passed the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Amendment Bill 2021 to amend the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. The bill expands access to safe and legal abortion on therapeutic, eugenic, humanitarian or social grounds. The bill enhances upper gestation limit from 20 to 24 weeks for special categories of women that will be defined in the amendments and would include survivors of rape, victims of incest and other vulnerable women. Union Housing and Urban Development Minister Hardeep Singh Puri told the Rajya Sabha that a new Parliament building would be constructed by the next winter session of Parliament. Speaking during question hour, the minister said no historical building would be demolished. And also speaking during question hour, Union Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan said that under the ethanol blending policy, 20% of ethanol mixing is targeted by 2025. Under the policy, 8.5% mixing is being done in petrol in 2020. And campaigning hots up in poll-bound states. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath holds rallies in Assam. He attacks the Congress party for pursuing politics of appeasement. Meanwhile, in West Bengal, the Trinamool Congress releases its manifesto.
As the date for assembly polls draws closer, campaigning is intensifying in West Bengal and Assam. All top leaders and star campaigners are busy campaigning for their respective parties. On Wednesday, many top BJP leaders held multiple rallies and public meetings in Assam. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath held public meetings in Hojai, Kalaigaon and Rangia in Assam.
असम की धरती श्रीमान शंकर देव की धरती भी है। शंकर देव एक महान दूरदृष्टा रहे हैं। घुसपैठ की समस्या के बारे में देश का ध्यान आकर्षित करने का उन्होंने कार्य किया था। दुर्भाग्य से कांग्रेस ने उनके महत्व को नहीं समझा और उन्हें लगातार नजरअंदाज करती रही, जिसके कारण असम में एक लंबे समय तक आतंकवाद, अलगाववाद, उग्रवाद पनपता रहा।
On the other hand, in West Bengal, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee released party's manifesto for the upcoming assembly polls. The manifesto promises a slew of schemes for people of Bengal. Meanwhile, Election Commission issued a sharp response to Mamata Banerjee's allegations. The commission said it is an attempt to belittle the institution of the commission with repeated innuendos. PM Narendra Modi will visit Assam and Bengal on Thursday. In a tweet, Prime Minister said, "We'll be in Assam tomorrow, 18th March. Looking forward to being among people of this great state." During the rally in Karimganj, Assam has witnessed positive changes across various sectors over the last 5 years. NDA seeks people's blessings to continue the development agenda. Glad to be getting the opportunity to be amongst my sisters and brothers of Bengal tomorrow, 18th of March. I would be addressing a rally in Purulia. Across West Bengal, there is a desire for change. BJP's agenda for good governance is striking a chord among people. On the other hand, in Tamil Nadu, MDMK chief Vaiko released the party's manifesto for assembly polls. BJP also released another list of candidates for the upcoming polls in Assam, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. The list includes 4 candidates for Kerala, 3 for Tamil Nadu and 1 for Assam. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Prime Minister Modi reached the BJP headquarters in New Delhi to attend the Central Election Committee meeting. He was received by BJP President JP Nadda at the BJP headquarters. The BJP has announced the names of 4 candidates for West Bengal elections: Chandan Mondal from Bariupur Purbo, Bidan Puravi from Falta, Papya Adhikari from Uluberia Dokhin and Anupam Ghosh from Jagat Ballabpur. Moving on, Union Minister for Information and Broadcasting and senior BJP leader Prakash Javadekar hit out at Congress leader Rahul Gandhi over his comments comparing India's democracy with Iraq under dictator Saddam Hussein and Libya's Muammar Gaddafi. Javadekar said that the comparison is an insult to the 80 crore voters of the country. And in a major development, Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh has been transferred. He was appointed the Director General of Home Guards. Hemant Nagrale, currently Maharashtra's Director General of Police, has been appointed as the new Mumbai Police Commissioner. And hours after the state government transferred Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh, the BJP launched a fierce attack on the state government for the laxity in the matter. Former Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis demanded that the NIA take over the case of businessman Mansukh Hiran's mysterious death and said political bosses of arrested Mumbai cop Sachin Vaze must be found out.
जो हाई कोर्ट के आदेश से सस्पेंडेड थे और ये पता होते हुए भी कि 2017 में इन्हीं सचिन वाजे के ऊपर एक्सटॉर्शन का केस लगा और एक एक्सटॉर्शन रैकेट का वसई विरार के इलाके में पर्दाफाश हुआ। उस रैकेट में इनका नाम आया, इन्होंने एंटीसिपेटरी बेल उसमें ली और उसमें बिल्कुल रिकॉर्ड पर यह आया है कि इस रैकेट में यह और इनके एक और साथी ये बड़े एक्टिवली पार्टिसिपेट करते थे।
Right, now take a look at COVID-19 updates from across the world. Now, as many as 12 crore 13 lakh and 56,000 people tested positive for COVID-19 worldwide. The number of recoveries stands at over 9 crore and 78 lakh. The deadly virus has claimed more than 26 lakh 84,000 lives. The US continues to remain the worst affected. It's registered more than 3 crore 2 lakh cases of COVID-19. The number of deaths in the US due to the virus has crossed 5 lakh 49,000. Meanwhile, a tragic news coming in from the US. A shooting in the city of Atlanta claimed 8 lives, 6 of them women of Asian descent. The man suspected of carrying out the attacks has since been arrested.
8 people, 6 of them women of Asian descent, were shot dead at a massage parlor and 2 day spas in the Atlanta area of the United States on Tuesday, and a man suspected of carrying out all of the attacks was arrested hours later in southern Georgia. The rampage began at about 5 p.m. when 4 victims were killed and another was injured in a shooting at Young's Asian Massage in Cherokee County, about 40 miles north of Atlanta. 2 women of Asian descent were among the dead, along with a white woman and a white man. Police officers responding to a call of a robbery in progress shortly before 6 p.m. arrived at the beauty spa to find 3 women shot dead. Investigating the initial shooting report, the officers were called to a second spa across the street where a 4th woman was found dead of a gunshot wound. Following the incident, Robert Arong Long of Woodstock in Cherokee County was taken into custody. Investigators say that they were very confident that the same suspect was the gunman in all the 3 shootings. Long was spotted in southern Georgia, far from the crime scenes, after police in Cherokee County issued an all-points bulletin providing a description and license plate of the getaway vehicle. Long was arrested after a highway pursuit by Georgia State Police and Crisp County Sheriff's deputies, who used a tactical driving maneuver to bring the suspect's vehicle to a halt. World Today Desk, DD India.
Meanwhile, residents in Yangon were building a complex barricade with sharpened bamboo sticks and sandbags amid ongoing protests and a bloody crackdown on pro-democracy demonstrations. Some were also scattering bricks in the streets to create obstacles for security forces, a tactic adopted from Hong Kong protests. And parts of Yangon have been placed under martial law. Thousands of residents have fled the industrial suburb of Hangtaya, where security forces killed 40 people on Sunday, and Chinese-financed factories were also set ablaze. According to United Nations Food Agency, the political and economic crisis over the February 1st overthrow of Aung San Suu Kyi's elected government could also force the poor into hunger as food and fuel prices rise. Meanwhile, the UN Human Rights Office said some 37 journalists have been arrested in Myanmar, including 19 who remain in detention, while 5 people are known to have died in custody. Right, and now to some sports news. Indian cricket team would look to level the 5-match T20 international series when the Virat Kohli-led side will take on Eoin Morgan's England in the 4th T20 at Motera in Ahmedabad on Thursday.
Indian cricket team needs to fix its top order woes ahead of the 4th T20 International, scheduled to take place on Thursday, in order to level the 5-match series against England at Motera Stadium in Ahmedabad. India lost the 3rd T20 match, thus conceding a 1-2 lead to the visitors, who are just 1 win away from clinching the series. It is expected that England would not make any changes in its playing 11. Indian cricket team needs to make some big calls ahead of the 4th T20, as KL Rahul's poor form continues to haunt India's prospect. Rahul has managed to score only 1 run in 3 innings with 2 ducks attached to his name. Surya Kumar Yadav, who was dropped after his debut game, may replace Rahul in the Indian team's lineup. India would also look to bring in Navdeep Saini in its playing 11, as sheer pace can do wonders on the tricky Motera wicket. The toss is again going to be crucial in the match, as the team batting second has won all the 3 matches played so far. It has been observed that as the night temperature cools down, the Motera wicket becomes favourable for batting, while in the first innings the ball is not coming onto the bat. However, Virat Kohli displayed how to bat on the pitch with a masterclass knock in the 3rd T20 match. The big square boundaries at Motera also make it hard for power hitters to go for big runs. The visitors have used the long boundaries to their own advantage as speedsters Jofra Archer and Mark Wood used the short ball ploy successfully against the Indian batsmen. Bureau Report, DD India.
And it's a wrap, but news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. I want to leave you with a music video featuring the Hawaii-based US Air Force Band, which collaborated with Giridhar Udupa, an acclaimed Indian percussion artist who plays the guttam, one of India's most ancient percussion instruments. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.